Welcome to the second episode of the North American Competitive Pokemon Podcast. We are your hosts, Calvin and Leo, and today we're joined with our not-so-special guest, Luke.
I'm still trapped in his basement.
Yeah, I don't know who let you back in the house.
I'm sorry.
We have a little bit to cover today, so let's get right into it. We're going to be taking a look at the Week 3 recap, and we got a little bit to say about how everybody's doing so far. So just going from the top of the list, looks like Hayden has actually dropped down to 10th with a loss and a defeat. So he's doing about 50-50 right now.
Yeah, it's easy to kind of maintain the middle of the road this early in the season, just going one-on-one. So it's not too surprising with how many people that a one-to-one week drops one that far. The next kind of major piece that we have here is Laurel, who had her first 0-2 week and her only 2 losses thus far. So that's going to drop her down from first place, which she was holding on to pretty firmly last week, down to fourth place. We've got a new leader taking charge that we'll talk about a little bit later on.
Yeah, and that's a real tilter. And when we're talking about tilter, there's no further than Kelsey at 0-5. Just, man, looking really bad so far. But I think if she just works on a couple things, she can really turn it around and get a bunch of wins under her belt.
Her games are definitely looking cleaner and cleaner every week, I would say.
Yeah.
Like the mistakes are dropping down. She's just had the unfortunate displeasure of having pretty strong opponents coming out in the early weeks. Like Ross and Sean are 2 absolute titans. They are certainly not losses to be disappointed in.
True enough.
Agreed. And speaking of somebody who also went down a little bit, not too much, but we got Leo.
Hi, I'm doing okay.
Defeated Kelsey and a kind of a pivotal loss to Ross there, which has helped him get up, as we'll see.
I got a little ambitious with weird sets. It didn't pay off.
But Leo, you're still standing pretty good. 5th place. That's definitely still playoff contention. So, yeah.
And speaking of somebody that I lost to, we got Ross over here, taking two W's in this week and moving on up. People definitely expecting him to be a contender, and he's gonna keep on proving that to be the case. I'm sure he's gonna get more wins in the future.
Yeah, and then there's William after that, who had an 0-2 week. Fairly bad differential, kind of falling down in the ranks a little bit, but not really too bad. He's 2-4 overall, not really that far off of the middle. If he gets a 2-0 week this week, should be good to go.
Mm-hmm. And a really big comeback from a team that I was pretty certain was going to do right out of the gates, but kind of struggled, is Lewis. But he nabbed a double win this week, and he's shot up to 6, and definitely coming into his own in this tournament so far, which is good. So, yeah.
Sean continues holding on to that 3rd place spot this week, even though he had a bye this week. So there was potential to drop just from not being able to play as many games as other people, but he got a win under his belt against the incredible Laurel this season. So that is he's holding on to 3rd. He's doing good. Luke?
Oh. So yeah, and then there's Chris. Got a 2-0 week. Kind of needed that. Saved himself. Now he's back up into the 50-50. Looking at a 3-3 overall. It looks pretty good for him. I mean, if he keeps it up, he'll be able to slide right up into the top ranks pretty quickly.
Agreed. Kyler had an interesting week. He took a loss to Lewis, but gained a blessing in disguise with the forfeit win from Dave. So, still not looking too good in the standings, but maybe this little bit of fortune is all he needs to start nabbing some wins.
Reggie continues to be just an absolute force to be reckoned with, nabbing a 2-0 week and moving up to first place with a pretty impressive differential. He's got does he have the highest? Yeah, he's got the highest differential in the league. Only above one person, a +1 above the 2nd place guy. So Reggie's doing well. Who's this guy?
Yeah, I don't even know. Man, Luke is just like the worst player in the entire tournament. He should just be removed for terrible. I'm not talking about myself.
Oh,
No, I had to play against Calvin, and Calvin beat me. And
Calvin in a bye week isn't the most fortunate.
yeah, yeah. It was an okay game. I had fun with the game, and then I had a bye, so it was whatever. Looking to bounce back this week. Doing pretty good so far, so I should be fine.
Myself, I did pretty good this week. Got a big win from Luke, which I needed. And unfortunately, Manny forfeited his match against me, which does suck because I was confident I was going to win that one too, legitimately. But yeah, I needed this week because I was not doing so well out of the gate.
It's definitely a lot of momentum to pick back up, so that's good. Speaking of Manny, 2 forfeits this week, unfortunately, and this ultimately led to us having a conversation with him, and he's dropping out of the tournament. He's been replaced by Daniel, correct?
Yes.
He's been replaced by Daniel, who was kind enough to fill in that spot. But never a good time to see somebody go, but it can be a bit of a commitment sometimes because it only looks like 2 matches a week, but team building and planning, it can be a real commitment if you take it seriously. So, bummer on
Yeah,
that
you
one.
could put like 5 minutes into each game, or you could put like an hour, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 days into it. Like it depends on what you want to do as a person. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we got Shane here, who took his first L. Very surprising. He ended up defeating Steven, but then barely lost to Hayden. So his undefeated streak is now a defeated streak. But he's still sitting very good at second place. So interested to see how he takes that L.
Speaking of Steven, unfortunately, continuing on with this little loss streak that he's got cooking for the beginning of the season. Still in last place at the moment, but his games, much like Kelsey, seem to be getting a little bit cleaner as the weeks go by, and hopefully he's able to really get a hold of what his team is capable of doing and pull it together for the later half. Close to half, actually, for the later half of the season.
Get in there. Yeah, and then there's Dave at the bottom. I'm saying at the bottom of the recap list. Went a little MIA this week. Hopefully he can find some time to play his games this week, because I think everybody here just really likes games actually happening.
People just want to play. Nobody wants to see these forfeits.
Let me play Pokemon, damn it.
Read. Yeah. But so just a quick if you watched the last podcast, you probably think, oh, well, we're going to be getting a game of the week analysis. We're not going to be doing those from now on unless we actually have a participant from the game of the week on our show. So this week, Lewis and Kyler were unable to attend. So unfortunately, we will not be doing a play-by-play of their match. But yeah, going forward, if you win game of the week, get on our show. We want to hear what you were thinking of. Like, we need that insight.
Even if you lose game of the week, we appreciate the insight, because honestly, like, you get game of the week when both sides are competitive, so you're going to be able to learn something even from the losing end of the game of the week. So yeah, we just want guests.
Yeah, plus if only one of you show up, you can trash talk the other person.
Yeah, you can talk about how much luck it was that they won.
Yeah, you got hacked.
I missed 3 hurricanes. Like,
oh boy, you're gonna trigger one. You're gonna trigger someone.
Yeah.
I don't think we really plan on talking about the kill leaders, but I just want to shout out my boy Klotzer for making it in the top 5. Boy howdy.
Oh,
that's all I got.
Crab.
As a trend, I like pointing out a little trend every time. So far for the past 3 weeks, 5th place has always had a new Pokemon in that spot, and it's always been a water type. Fun fact.
2 out of 5 of them have Tapu in their name.
That's true. Coco?
Yes.
Was Coco on here last week?
No, he shot up. Like,
Yeah,
he,
I
that
thought so.
Pokemon, he got like 6 kills this week.
That's what's cool
Very
about the cool
impressive.
leaders list is that
It can change.
It can completely change pretty easily.
Because not everyone is going to have a Pokemon that they can just take carte blanche into a game every single week and have it be a powerhouse killer. Like Lele, for instance. I think Lele got one kill, I think, this week, because I brought it in as like a bit of a supporter in some scenarios, and it just ends up shifting a lot. So there's a lot of room for this one to move around, because not everybody's just going to be spamming the same stuff over and over again.
All you need is a good sweep, and then you're on the list.
Yeah,
Basically.
6-0s go a long way.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So for our special discussion of this week, we're kind of wanting to take a quick look at the trades. There's been a lot of cool, interesting trades, and you just kind of wanted to take a deeper look at each of them. And yeah.
All right. Luke, you were the one that kind of broached this topic as a thing that's pretty important to speak about. Is there any like one particular set of trades that you found most interesting or most worth analyzing?
There's a there's a couple really big ones, I think. Just like across the board. Like there's people that are trading like their OU Pokemon, which I like the idea of.
Yeah.
Because I did it.
It's a good idea, because as far as what tiers are the most open and have the most untapped potential, OU is going to remain open the entire tournament long. We've only got 17 of them out of every mon in the tier, and that's a far cry from UU, where there's like 5 Pokemon left or something.
Yeah, and OU is just like that tier that, especially in this tournament, like basically if you have an OU Pokemon on your team, it's probably going to be a big impact. So that's the greatest part about the OU tier, is that you can just quickly switch out for something that is going to be really fucking good. So the big trades that I see so far are like I really like Calvin's Mew, because that completely changed his team, and then I like my trade with the Venusaur and Keldeo, and then Ross's well, he went from Mega T-Tar to Superior to Tapu Bulu, and that's quite a lot. So I want to talk about that. But those are like my big 3 that I see. So, like personally, I think the biggest one for me is the Thunderous to Mew on Calvin's team, because it changes a lot for him. Like it changes his entire composition of his team. I think Mew is an excellent pickup as a Pokemon, because if you Google it right now, you'll see that it has about 569 moves that it can pull from. And then he also gave it the Z Crystal. So, and Mew as a Pokemon has its own unique like Mewnanium, so it has an extra move that no other Pokemon. So it just has a million moves, and it makes it incredibly hard to prep for. And I think it's just a wonderful Pokemon to really scare your opponent into doing dumb things.
Common's trying to steal my thunder with the psychic terrain.
Well, anybody's free to steal my Thunderous, since he's a free agent now.
Damn, that was sick.
So one thing you're going to notice about this is following our... Well, I think that this happened before the last episode was actually posted. But Hayden traded one of his bulky waters for something brand new. He picked up the Entei that became a free agent when Kyler picked up Chandelure. And I think that changes the scope of his UU a lot. I think it really evens out a lot of a couple of the spots where he was lacking, and just gives him another Pokemon to actually take advantage of that doesn't fall victim to that same role congestion that we were harping on a bit last week. So I think that's a great trade for him. Now, if only he could get rid of that Typhlosion now that he's got another fire type.
Yeah, I still feel like his team falls under the NU problem, I'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Entei is a good trade. And, it's really kind of making Stickweb more of a viable play style he can actually run with now. Now that he's got things that actually really benefit from it, like Entei and Nidoqueen, I think it's making his team much scarier.
Agreed. And in the same vein as trades that we recommended, Laurel traded Scrafty for Sandslash, which is one that we called and recommended. I'm sure Calvin had some Sean Slash. I'm sure Calvin had some advice for her on that front.
Yeah.
Good trade. We all called it. We all thought that it would be really good for her team, patching up. Not even necessarily a hole, just something that could be changed. Might be more beneficial. Might be more flexible. And in long run, I think she's going to really appreciate that trade. So good for her.
hmm
What,
I'd like to
what,
speak about Kelsey's trade, because this is where I'd really like some of the newer players to kind of consult with some of the more experienced players, because she actually really could have used a little bit of advice before making a trade here. And because I don't exactly agree with the Reggie Steele Embor trade, the reason is her defensive core, as you can tell, it mostly revolves between Deontay, Reggie Steele, and Blissey, who none of them appreciate fighting moves. None of them appreciate ground moves. What I would have suggested would be to keep the Reggie Steele, because having a steel type in this league is very important, especially such a mid-tier one and bulky one like Reggie Steele.
Yeah, with
It's actually
mixed
a
bulk,
really good value.
flexible bulk, the kind of bulk that you can really play around with and tailor it to whatever you need for a match.
Exactly. What I would have suggested would be to actually get rid of Whimsicott, because it's not really. I don't even think she's brought it to a single game yet.
I think she bought
And
it once. I remember
okay.
her. Yeah.
Oh.
Think
Well, I think maybe get rid of Whimsicott or Miss Magius, and I would have suggested getting Wheezing. That's
Ooh,
a bulky poison type that can take fighting type moves, which helps Blissey and Registeel, and it's immune to ground, which helps Deontay and Registeel. So that would have been my advice.
yeah, I think that's probably a good thing to consider because the Registeel did seem like it was kind of an important part to her bulk core. So it's a bit of a shame. Embor is no slouch. It can pull off a lot of things, but in the long run, I think she's going to be missing the bulk and the flexibility that Registeel would be able to offer.
hmm
What else is kind of interesting?
So you
so.
want to explain to us your trades, Leo?
Okay, so the Vileplume for Xatu one was a pretty early one. That happened. I think that literally was a week 1 trade, or no, I think it was a week 2 trade because I used Vileplume once.
Right.
And the general thought process on that one was I wanted a trick rumor, and I know that Xatu is a weird trick rumor, but I only have so much space for trades. And while it would be nice to pick up a decent trick rumor in UU is just totally picked. So my UU mons are probably going to be staying the way they are, even though there are some things that I would like to change. But having a nice, flexible trick rumor that also gives me more opportunities for defog and a little bit of tech with magic bounce was something that I really appreciated. And the Lucario for Haxorus one was pretty easy for me to justify because I already had a steel type, so I wasn't losing anything as far as like resistances go. I already have my Steelix to shore up any of those resistances that the Lucario would have offered me. And Lucario's whole point for me was to be a really flexible Z move user. And while I think that it can do that, I just find that it can't hit hard enough and it isn't quite fast enough to like do what it needs to do, because either I focus on the speed aspect and I'm not hitting as hard with my Z moves as I could be, or I focus on the attack aspect and I'm underspeeding things that I want to kill. So the Haxorus is a pretty easy trade for me to make because while I'm losing the ability to be a bit of a switch hitter, as far as like mixed attacking goes, that was something that Lucario is really good at. I have enough special attacking that I'm not worried about being super front loaded on physical damage. So having a Pokemon that can still have the crazy flexibility as far as Z crystals go, because Haxorus gets Poison Jab for Z Poison, Iron Tail for Z Steel, Dragonium Z, which you're going to be seeing that one a lot. And having Dragon Dance, it was just a no-brainer to me. Like I just feel like it's pretty much a strict upgrade for what I wanted to use it as, and I'm pretty happy with that one.
Okay. And I don't know what Luke, you had a bit to say about Ross's team there. You want
So
to that one?
it's kind of okay. So first off, I think it's like trading was like a mess with like the T-Tar, but what it did do, and it's like some kind of insight because at the same time that he was messing around with that, I was considering trading my Keldeo away for Venusaur. But the other option was Superior, and I was actually probably going to go with the Superior until I saw that he already took it. So then I took the Mega Venusaur. I was probably going to go for the Superior, and then he grabbed the Bulu right out. I think it was like, was it the same day? I think it was the same
No.
day that he, was it the week after?
There's
I don't
no
even
way
remember.
that he traded OU for OU in the same day, right? Did that
I
actually
think it
No,
happen?
was
he
the
did it
week
the
after.
next week
Okay.
Yeah, it was
because
the
he
week
didn't
after.
use Superior.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because he did actually block me. Like I could go back and trade it now, but I'm actually kind of glad that he didn't because I like Mega Venusaur on my team.
I think
But
that Mega Venusaur is just more well-rounded. I think you would appreciate it a little bit more.
yeah, I think what was wrong with my team, or that my team had a lot of problems with, that it fixes, is that I felt very locked into running like choice items, and it made my games really wonky. Just being able to actually like my opponents would just kind of dance around me, and I would just fumble around like switching my Pokemon. Yeah, I couldn't do it. So I think having the extra bulk and just having more versatility with the Mega Venusaur helps me a lot more than Superior. Um, clearly he felt the same way about Superior, and he grabbed the Bulu. So whether he did that for a physical attacker or not, which probably the case, I think. I don't know. I think Bulu is probably a stronger pick than Superior for his team for sure. And then what I think is really interesting about the Sylveon for the Sharpedo trade is the storyline that they created. If you notice, there's like 4 people that are affected by this trade.
That's true.
Because the Sylveon getting dropped made Chris pick up the Sylveon and drop his Chandelier, which then made Kyler drop his Entei for Chandelier, and then Hayden picked up the Entei and dropped his Tentacruel. So there's just like this giant storm of trades that went off just because Ross dropped his Sylveon.
Just a big old
I
domino
think
effect.
yeah, it's really cool. I just really like that storyline that just all these Pokemon got affected just by that one instance. It's really cool play. And then I don't really have anything to say about the Setland for Aggron. I don't really.
Aggron has immediate power wall
Yes.
breaking, which Ross's team kind of struggles wall breaking other teams. So Aggron's it's hard to switch into a head smash.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's
Unless
easy.
you're like a Hippowdon or a Steelix.
I did the math. Head Smash is a 6-hit KO against an uninvested defensive Steelix.
Oh my God.
I would hope so.
Is that a 6-hit KO for his own Pokemon?
That would be funny. Rocket.
Like, does Aggron die after 6 head smashes?
Oh man.
So I'd like to speak about Williams' team a little bit.
Yeah.
So coming into this tournament, Williams struggled a little bit with the draft, and I think he finally has got a foot as far as his speed control problem. So the Electros for Zebstrika was an okay trade. I actually wasn't a big fan of that because I told him to do research before and see if it got U-turn. He just made the trade without checking, and it doesn't.
Yeah, just old switch.
that really hurts his team, I think. But Luke dropping the Keldeo meant that William could get the team he wanted originally.
From what I'm aware is that I actually blocked him during the draft. He was really set on the Keldeo, and then I snagged it from him.
Yeah.
Well, that's his own fault for stealing the Como from me right in the beginning.
But yeah, he finally got the Keldeo, which helps him. Gives him a bulky water type, which he needed, and an offensive water type because his team's very offensive. And then he got rid of the Crook, and he got the Mega Aerodactyl, which completely saves his speed problem. Going from his highest being base 100 to now he has a base 150.
It's the fastest. It's the fastest Pokemon in the draft.
Yeah.
Tied with Mega Zam.
Straight up, like, okay, I actually don't hate his team now. His team's actually really scary now.
I agree. It'll be
Not the
interesting
same
in a couple
Mega-
weeks when we get to talk about it, knowing how these trades have affected it.
Exactly.
I think what's interesting is the next person on the list is Lewis, and he hasn't traded a Pokemon yet because he doesn't have to. Like, he's doing really good in the tournament. He hasn't really needed to trade anything yet. So
Yeah,
I think that's kind of interesting. He got clearly a lot of things that he wanted.
Yeah,
So,
I would say that that's the case.
yeah,
Yeah.
with the Coco and Mandantra combo, that's really a scary high end.
Yeah.
It's that little combo.
You got Sean with another early trade. He traded his Claydol for his Comfy a couple of weeks ago. He traded the Claydol picked up the Comfy, and I think that's a pretty good trade. It's like a complete role reversal. There's nothing similar at all about these two Pokemon, so I guess he figured that whatever Claydol did, he didn't really need as much as something with a nice setup and priority potential as Comfy has.
Yeah, I think that's the
Mon
case.
can really get going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, did he use Claydol at all when he had it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea. He has a Hippowdon. There's no reason
It's
ever to
better,
use
yeah.
Claydol.
No point. I think the only thing that Claydol gets over Hippo is I think Claydol gets Rapid Spin.
Mm.
Which he doesn't really.
He didn't need.
Whatever. He doesn't need it. He's got defog.
Yeah, exactly. He's fine.
Yeah.
Chris had a bunch of changes. He was part of that big old chain that happened with the Sylveon became a free agent. He was the one that took advantage of that Sylveon. So he decided, oh, I don't like my UU Fire Ghost. I want this fairy type. Let me get an OU Fire Ghost because I love that typing, I guess. So he basically just upgraded his Chandelier and picked up a Sylveon in exchange for losing a Latios, which gives him a mega slot that's opened up now. So maybe he'll appreciate that in a couple of weeks when he finds something worthwhile to trade for in terms of a mega. Serena versus Swellow is kind of a weird one to me because I kind of like Serena and I feel like Swellow is a bit gimmicky. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
It gives him some extra speed,
It does,
I
that's
guess.
true.
Like Swallow is really fast.
I like
So
having Serena around, and I kind of thought about picking up Serena if I feel like I had the room for it, but I don't. It's a weird rapid spinner, and I think that's cool.
yeah. But the problem is with Chris's team, which I would have talked about once we get to his analysis, is he has way too many grass types on this team.
That's true.
And he's really weak to like just that exploit in of itself. So yeah, maybe he shouldn't have gotten rid of Serena, but I do agree with him getting rid of at least one of his like three grass types.
I would have considered dropping that Ferris seed personally.
Spike support.
It is Spike Sport. Yeah.
It's a spiky boy.
Yeah. Moving on to Kyler. He was also part of that big old trade. He picked up the Chandelier, traded it for the Entei. Just a switch from a bit more of not a switch hitting, but a switch from a physical attacker to a special attacker. Pick up another stab in exchange for losing that priority and a little bit of speed. So I don't really know how to feel about this one. I kind of liked having the higher speed tier in the UU.
I know who does like this trade is very much is Hayden.
He does like this trade.
Yeah, Hayden benefited from it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
Uh,
Reggie, I liked Reggie's trades. I like it how it's very reactionary to like a really so William versus Reggie. William choked the game really badly, but the thing is like I think it was a wake up call because turn one, when it was Landorus versus and it had intimidated a Defiant Braviary, and then he looked at his teams and realized he had no flying resists. I think that was the wake up moment because literally the next trade he made was he got Probopass.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was funny.
That is pretty funny. I didn't realize the context of that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize either.
Yeah. Luke, you have anything to talk about with your trades?
Well, I kind of already talked about the.
Yeah, you talked about the Keldeo
Keldeo.
Venusaur. Anything about the Sandslash Hitmonlee or what?
I'm having a hard time finding a good place to use the Hitmonlee. I used it on like I think that PU tournament that we actually played in December, or was it November? Whatever. I really like the Hitmonlee. It's a good wall breaker, but just having a hard time making it fit on my team. It's not really like is it good or bad against this person. It's more about like the 6 slots on a team
Yeah.
that I'm having a hard time fitting it in. I like the Pokemon. There wasn't really too many reasons for me to bring Sandslash, even though I love the Pokemon. But I have Gligar, and Gligar is like a kind of a better version of Sandslash.
Yeah, in much of the same way as the Hippowdon is a better version of the Claydol, like we talked about with Sean. Gligar is just better Sandslash, only trading Defog for Rapid Spin.
Although I never got to use my secret tech on Sandslash. I never got to use the Choice Band Earthquake. Full attack investment Sandslash can just kill
It's a
someone.
tough one.
Calvin, Luke talked a little bit about your trade, the Thunderous for the Mew. Do you have anything to add on to his thoughts on that one, or not really?
Well, see, the sad thing is I never got to use Thunderous to his full potential because I didn't get rid of Thunderous because of Thunderous. I got rid of Thunderous because of Chestnut, because I hate that Pokemon and it has failed me too many times. But literally, the spike support's not working for my team. So, and I needed more of a support, bulkier role and someone who can more or less do anything. And Mew was a little bit better with that, whereas Thunderous was more, I wouldn't say he's one-dimensional, but it was he's not taking hits and he was just attacking. So, but the Mew trade is in prep for my future Chestnut trade, which we'll see.
Gotcha.
What I think is just really great about Mew overall is it might as well just be 3 question marks there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
It's just all question marks.
It's so hard to prep for, and that's what most of this tournament is. It's not like the play is, what you focus on, but really it's like a lot of the prep work. So, and you can't really prep for that. It's just 4 random moves. You have no idea what it's going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
And the rest of the last 4 here haven't made any trades.
A couple of them could use it.
Yes, for sure. So hopefully this next Monday we see some trades from them.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see trades from Manny or Daniel, because when you take over a team, you probably have some ideas of how you want to change it.
Yeah, it would definitely be in his best interest to do that, I would think. Just playstyle wise.
And I don't think Shane will, because he hasn't really needed it yet. I think he might do something, but
he has expressed an interest in getting rid of the Mandibuzz, if I recall.
Oh yeah, that's true. I do remember seeing that. Yeah.
But aside from that, he's looking pretty good.
And then Steven, I think he should probably look for some trades. He's on the bottom of the list. I think he needs to do something more than just playing better. Like that only goes so far. Like go for a different Pokemon. Maybe trade out the Volcarona. The Volcarona.
Volcarona, I think, could use a trade. It's such a cool Pokemon, and it's a shame to have to get rid of it. But I just feel like it's too easy to take advantage of in this format.
That's what I agree with as well. I think Volcarona is a very good OU pick when you have a team of OUs, but Volcarona as like the big power play, I just view it as the weakest.
It can't carry a team.
OU. Yeah, I view it as the weakest OU Pokemon out of everybody's in the entire tournament, which is a shame because Volcarona is cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great Pokemon. And then Dave's team, I think, could use a little work here and there as well. Just
It's a ground Pokemon or a grass Pokemon.
yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, but that'll do it for trade talk, I think. Any closing thoughts, or have we pretty much covered what we can?
Yeah, I think we've gone pretty in depth with everybody here.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we want to move on to the final segment, the team analysis.
Well, before that, we have a special promotion from our this week's sponsor.
This week of the Pokemon recap is sponsored by Colburberry. If you need to take a hit from a dark type, you'd look no further than Colburberry.
Nailed it.
Okay. Yeah, in all seriousness, if anybody wants a sponsor, let us know. This is your spot right here.
We'll do some shout outs, yeah. We're always happy to spread the love around.
Or I could
Cool.
just keep doing stupid promotional things every week.
That is also an option. Really,
That's
this is an
prefer.
ultimatum.
This is an ultimatum. Yeah, if you don't want to,
Find
you don't
something
wanna
to
die
share
from
on the
bad
show, or
jokes.
risk Luke giving us bad jokes until the end of time.
which is probably more than likely.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to our final segment, which is going to be just a team analysis. And this week we'll be doing one, and that is Kelsey. So she's got a very interesting team, and we all have a little bit to say about it. So,
Luke, you want to
any
give the
opening
first?
thoughts?
You want to give the first introduction here? I know you've worked a lot with her on her match-to-match team building, so I figure you're probably the one that's got the most thought put into her team as a whole. So you want to lead us off here?
Yeah, so I think Kelsey's team is actually the greatest ever, and I think it's just undeniably the greatest. And that's it. Okay, we're done. And end it.
Fascinating.
No, yeah, her team is not really something that I would play because I don't really use those Pokemon too much. So it's weird for me to help her because I don't really know her Pokemon too well. But I feel like a lot of her games that she has lost, oddly enough, hasn't really been due to her draft. It's been more due to her play. Because when you look at her team, she's got some really big threats. She's got the Mega Alakazam, which I think Leo said it
It's terrifying. It's
like
tied,
10 minutes ago. It's tied for the fastest Pokemon in the league.
Yeah, you can't.
Really good
like,
Pokemon.
It's faster than a lot of scarfed Pokemon.
Exactly. That's the terrifying part of it. But what's not terrifying of Mega Alakazam is how well he can take a hit. So he should probably not be taking hits. So that's kind of what I'm getting at, where it's more about the play. Like Mega Alakazam can do a lot of work, but you need to caress it. You need to have some finite finesse to it. It can't just be like, I'm here, I take hit, and then I kill you. That's not what Mega Alakazam does. But who does do the I take a hit and then I kill you is Volcanion, which I think is one of the Pokemon that she's been using more or less the best, I think. Now her team overall has like well, it's got 3 fire types now, which is maybe not the greatest thing. And then the Nidoking is pretty good. I've been helping her with her sets with that because she wasn't really sure how to use it. So like that's also like a big problem. It's just like the experience with her team and everything like that. I don't really like. I've been trying to help her as much as possible, but I don't really know. I don't really know the Pokemon too well. So, it's a good team. Like it has a lot of threats on it. With like Salazzle, Mega Alakazam, Volcanion. It's got good wall breaking. It has some decent walls with Diancie and Blissey. The problem with them is that they can be like exploited. So I think what Calvin said earlier with the Weezing is actually a really good idea because it shores up the weaknesses of her defensive core, which I think is just a brilliant idea. And really how every defensive core should work. Virizion is also a really big threat on the team. On top of the Salazzle, the Volcanion, Mega Alakazam. Nidoking hits like a truck as well. She's got good wall breakers for sure. She added Imbor, which another really good wall breaker. It may be a redundancy though on her team.
That is kind of my thought. I think it's a bit.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit redundant.
Yeah, because she already has a fire wall breaker with Volcanion, and it's like, yeah, it's a good Pokemon. It's just when do you use it?
Yeah, like how
And
many
then-
times are you going to want to use this instead of the Virizion? And more importantly, how many times is it going to be easier for you to get the Emboar into play than for the Virizion to get into play? Just
Yeah.
because the Emboar shares so many weaknesses with the rest of her team, that the ground weakness mainly, that I think it's going to be difficult to get it in there, as opposed to Virizion, who can just pretty freely switch in there most of the time, because generally speaking, an Earthquake is going to be a pretty easy way to cover one of Kelsey's switch-ins, and that makes the Virizion invaluable.
Yeah, true enough. It's just like 3 fire types makes it a little awkward to team build with this. Just I think, with helping her and everything like that, it's just like, well, which one of your 3 fire types you want? Oh, let's pick the best one. like, like what do you do? It's just a little weird. Whereas I feel like when I've used Salazzle as well, I view it as like a cherry on the top kind of Pokemon. It's not something that you like really team build around. It's more of like that extra oomph. It's not like that focal point, but more of like just that extra kick to get you over the edge. Like remembering how Laurel played it in I don't remember what tournament it was, but I remember her using her Salazzle very, very well. Um, and yeah, it's just that kind of like supporty kind of damage, big hit. You kind of forget about it, and then it comes out, and you're like, oh crap, and then you lose. Whereas I think her team doesn't really support it well enough, and it doesn't do that cherry on the top thing that normally does. Just because, like Leo said, weaknesses, just they're kind of all the same. And then Diancie, it's a hard Pokemon with like the typing. It's hard for it to be a defensive Pokemon. I feel like it has a lot of weaknesses, and it's kind of the reason why I think it's an NU is that it's just very easy to exploit.
If only Flash Cannon had worse coverage. If it were on less Pokemon.
Yeah, there you go. I mean that says it. Flash Cannon. Whimsicott is a good Pokemon. It's just really hard to fit on her team. And then Miss Malgus, I don't really know that Pokemon at all. It seems like it would be an okay little like wall breaky kind of sweeper thing, but like I think it's like a calm mindset that you run on it. But I don't know. Again, like it's just really hard to run her team. Like, with her defensive core being so flimsy, probably the best word. It just kind of makes it very hard for her to switch up her 6 Pokemon. At least the way that I view it. If her team isn't Mega Alakazam, Nidoking, Volcanion, Blissey, Virizion, and one other Pokemon, like, it would be a surprise. That's kind of what her teams have been almost every single game. Well, I mean, except for the Registeel, but she's dropped that now, so I feel like it makes it even more of like a 5 and then pick one. And that's kind of what it feels like. So that's what I think about her team.
All right.
Okay.
You want to go, Cowan, or should I?
Sure, I can go. So, yeah, I agree with a lot of those points. A lot of redundancy with the fire types, and just overall, she needs to have more of a game plan with how her team should be run. So it's pretty simple to me how I would run a team like hers. Simply support Mega Alakazam to win. It's not a difficult plan. She has some of the necessary tools to do that. She has wall breakers, which can break down walls, which Alakazam appreciates because then he can just one-shot things. But beyond that, she's kind of in a weird limbo state of just having a lot of the same Pokemon. So yeah, all the fire types are all redundant. Having Miss Magus is no point when you have Mega Alakazam. Even Whimsicott, I don't like Whimsicott there. Like it can kind of support, but it's too frail. I don't really like it. What I would suggest for this team is she needs, instead of another wall breaker, she needs another late game sweeper that's different than Alakazam. And I think she needs to have some more defensive support Pokemon, right? Whimsicott's an offensive support Pokemon. I think she needs defensive support Pokemon. So what I would suggest as a few good trades, the Weezing's a big one. So maybe get rid of Whimsicott. The reason why Weezing's a good defensive support is, yes, it can take those hits. Like I said, it offers a ground immunity. It also offers something else that Alakazam really appreciates, which is toxic spike support. Having everything toxic and whittled down really makes Alakazam's late game easier. And who knows, you could even do some wacky stuff with your Salazzle in that. you could have Toxic Spikes and then like a Venoshock Salazzle or something interesting. Just some ideas. Also, I think having a NU support Pokemon with Healing Wish would be kind of cool. That would be useful for something like Volcanion, who's he's taking damage. Go out into, say, your Musharna or
Harass
some other
Laurel
kind of
until
low
she gives you
tier.
Cresselia.
Yeah, Cresselia, if Laurel traded that. But I'd say Musharna or like our Audino would be okay. Having Healing Wish, having Thunder Wave, having healing, I think that'd be important for this kind of a team. And my final suggestion, actually, no, I've got two more. Sorry. You need to find something different besides Volcanion to be your defogger. It's such wasted potential. Volcanion, for one, he's a wall breaker. He should be clicking attack buttons, not defog. Two, he is not a good defogger because he's weak to rocks and every hazard in the game, which is not good. I haven't thought of a defogger for you yet, but I'd say that should probably be one of your one of your things that you start considering with a trade. But as a good late game sweeper, that would also appreciate defog support, and that would also help with your ground weakness. Potentially trade in Borway and get Yanmega. Yanmega with speed boost can be a real late game terror. Or say if you still need that wall breaking potential, Tinted Lens is phenomenal. And with the choice specs, that Pokemon is going to be difficult to play against. So those are kind of my suggestions and analysis of our team.
All right. Well, I'm not going to be treading too much new ground here. As far as like supporter recommendations go, it may be easy to think, oh, Whimsicott is a good supporter, but the problem with Whimsicott is that it supports Pokemon that are slow. It doesn't support somebody like Mega Alakazam well because a lot of its control is speed based. Things like Tailwind and Thunder Wave are good tools if your real powerhouse heavy hitter is going to be, say, a Tapu Bulu that is always kind of on the threshold of its ability to outspeed things. That's why it's going to be really helpful in that case. But Mega Alakazam doesn't need any help outspeeding anything. So getting something a little bit bulkier that's a little bit more hazard-based, I think would go a long way. That's why the Weezing is such a good idea, because Toxic Spikes go a long way. Having just that extra bulk and the ability to take a hit with a lot of attacks that one might use against a Mega Alakazam. So, like, somebody's not going to be Psychicking a Mega Alakazam. So it's going to be easy to swap in a Weezing, because it's not going to be afraid of eating a Psychic when your Zam is out there. So that's generally why Whimsicott isn't really going to do its job as a supporter for your team specifically, just because you are so fast already. And you either have the option of keeping those crazy speed tiers, because Salazzle itself is like blindingly fast, or trading that out potentially for something that might be a little bit more flexible or maybe hit a little bit harder, but probably end up being a little bit slower, just because you're not going to get too much faster than Salazzle in the RU tier. But if I would say that any particular tier is in need of help, it's either the RU tier or the NU tier. And I'm inclined to say that the RU tier should be the one that you should focus your trades on, just because so much more of your power is going to come out of that. Your NUs are nice, like kind of supporty defensive Pokemon, with the exception of the Mismagus, who I guess is trying to be a sweeper most of the time, but I don't really get it. Mega Alakazam is just doing its job of like a fast, heavy hitting special sweeper and cleanup artist, just so much better than somebody that like Mismagus, who is going to be focusing on getting, I think it might even get plot, but I could be wrong.
It gets nasty plot.
It gets plot. Okay. So it wants to be a setup mon, but the thing is that you're setting up and really all you're doing is getting even with Mega Alakazam and still being like a million points slower. So really, what's it going to do for you? You don't need more special sweeping. And Mega Alakazam already has such good like offensive coverage that like you don't need Ghost Stab. Who needs Ghost Stab? Especially if you're taking Calvin's advice on something like the Yanmega, because now you got Bug Stab, which is really covering everything that you want out of the Ghost Stab anyway. So I think your top line, I think, is fine. I think your OU picks and your UU picks are like great for what you want from them. And it's not like you're really going to have that much opportunity to switch out for things that are improvements anyway. Where you really want to start changing things up is the Enbor could probably go in exchange for something more specially oriented like the Mega, and that's going to cover your speed tiers too. It just gives you options. Whereas the Enbor is just kind of going to end up being a wall breaker that you don't need and taking a lot of recoil damage from Reckless. But really the only like kind of closing thought that I have for this is to just pay attention to what you think is going to best be able to complement your Mega Alakazam, because that is where the bulk of your power is going to be coming from. If I were playing your team every week, my goal would just be get everybody whittled, get everybody statused, and get Alakazam at a position where it can just hit one move over and over and over again, and that being your Psychic. Which is why something like Yanmega is such a good complement for this, because your Yanmega is going to be able to cover your Dark types. So I think those are kind of the directions that Kelsey should really be taking her team, because really her lower tier mons are in a bit of an awkward position to help her higher tiers, and I think that she's got some opportunity to really shore up these weaknesses and pretty quickly get into a position with even just one, maybe even two more support mons where she could start just getting KOs with Alakazam. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Cool. Yeah. So what would our final rating be for her from everybody? For me personally, I think her team sits, and this is judging the team, not the player, right? I would rank her team at 2 stars right now, but with some good trades, I feel like this team can even potentially go to a 5-star just because of that Alakazam. But right now, it's a little too easy to prep for, in my eyes.
I agree with that, actually. 2 stars, what I had in my head before you talked about it, and I'm gonna stick with that. A lot of untapped potential. There's room to improve a lot with just a couple of trades. And I think that this team isn't one that you should be sleeping on just because of the state that it's in right now. It'll take very little work to make this team one that can really start claiming a lot of wins.
Yeah, I want to give it 3 stars because, well, I think just having Mega Alakazam on your team is like worth a star.
Yeah.
Like honestly, Alakazam can take over a game and just solo carry it sometimes. So like all your team has to really do is like if you can get like maybe 40% out of like if your Nidoking can do 40% and your Volcanion can do 40% and your Blissey can do 40% and Virizion does 40%. If all your Pokemon do at least 40% damage to one Pokemon on the other side, your Alakazam should be set up pretty well to actually take over a game. So I think it's worth 3 stars.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that.
Yeah. I think the only reason why it hasn't really like shown that it's worth 3 stars is just playing around Alakazam to make it actually show its full potential. So
okay. Cool. Well, hopefully Kelsey watches this or listens and take some of our advice. I think she could definitely improve from what we have to say here. But I think that's gonna wrap up this week's podcast. Yeah, let us know what you guys think of this episode. We got some good feedback from the last one, so
yeah, people seem to like it.
And next week we get to talk about Leo's shitty team. So
yeah, we
should be good.
I'll have all of my blasting points at the ready.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully I will not be trapped in Calvin's basement anymore and someone will like step in and be a different guest speaker because yeah, I'm pretty sure people don't want to hear my voice anymore.
Nah.
Except for Connor, he appreciated it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Hi, Connor.
Connor was enthralled.
Awesome.
That's just my boy.
Well, yeah. Thanks for watching to the end here. And,
Thank you once again. Hope this one is as well. I don't know. This one gets the kind of good feedback that the first one did. I was happy that everyone was happy with it. So let's hope we keep that trend up.
See you next time on Dragon Ball Pokemon.
Sure.
see you guys.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.